chose the new drug dealer album, Hiding in Plain Sight. Yep, that's what it's called. Yeah, so I've always been a really big drug dealer fan. This is like the third album by him, Michael Collins. He I think it's kind of like he's kind of the main guy and he just brings a lot of people on to his project. His stuff kind of like weirdly um especially in his newer stuff kind of moving towards like a yacht rock kind of Steely Dan-esque kind of thing, which is pretty cool compared to his earlier stuff. But yeah, I mean I loved all of his albums. Um but I think this one might be my favorite. I don't know, it's hard to say. It's it's just this album specifically reminds me of Can't Buy a Thrill by Steely Dan. If you know the first Steely Dan album, you can really like all like the saxophones and like the songwriting kind of reminded me of that. And yeah, I just think it's like a super awesome album, and it fits such a good vibe to it. Um, I think the title track Madison is just it's like exactly a yacht rock, kind of sounding song. It's like super sweet, you know. Um, but I don't have the tracks in front of me, but I should because I know there's one song that literally has like the guitar, like the same guitar sound as in like "Do It Again" by Steely Dan on that album too. New Fascination. And it's such a cool guitar solo. Pictures of You is another standout for me. And then Posse Cut, the last track, is just like the perfect way to end the album. It has I don't know who all these people are on the album, but I kind of looked them all up and I feel like they're all like nobodies. Like, I don't know how he knows these, like they have like no listens, which and it's so funny, like whenever he brings people on to his albums, I feel like then they start getting a lot more traction. Like I know Wise Blood was on his first album when Wise Blood wasn't popular. Um, like he's had like Ariel Pink on his first album. His last album had Dougie Poole on it. That's how I found Dougie Poole. And I forget who else was on the last one, but yeah, it's just these like cool collaborations he always does, and I think yeah, and it's a new sound. It's a even more into the yacht rock sound for Drug Dealer, and I'm picking up on it. So, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I feel like we've been waiting for a third album from him for a while. So I also agree with you, Matt. I think this is my favorite drug dealer album so far. I think like from beginning to end, um, there's really not a lot of misses on this album in comparison to the older albums. I think.
Yeah, less misses. I mean, it still
Yeah.
kind of has it. Sorry to cut you off, but the second
No,
song I did not like.
oh, okay.
Maybe
Yeah.
I thought that song was a little, I don't know,
Yeah.
it's a little cheesy sometimes, but
No, I feel that, but I guess like this album, it's shorter than the other ones. I felt like a lot of the other albums were just too long. Even though you got like introduced to all these different artists, which I think he still does here. Um, I just been a sucker for like short albums lately anyway. And um, for a 33-minute album, like I like this one a lot. A couple of the tracks I liked. I liked Madison. I also didn't really like Baby as much either. Um, Pictures of You, Valentine. Valentine to me also like for some reason the hook sounds really similar to Madison. Am I crazy or did
yeah,
it?
yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a good way to put it. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
I
It's just
thought it
like a
was like
very
a total
similar thing
collab.
they do a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, hard dreaming man and Posse Cut. Also, this album has some cool music videos too. I definitely suggest going watching those.
I haven't seen any of them.
I know I haven't been like as soon as Reed like we had that little like music video thing, I've been watching them more.
Oh
There's some
yeah.
good ones out there. So yeah, I thought this album was pretty good too. I'm glad you picked it.
Yeah, I really liked it. You know, second what everyone said, covered a lot of ground there. So yeah, but I loved like the rock, like it totally feels like a classic rock influence, classic rock feel, like Steely Dan, kind of even like Crosby, Stills and Nash, kind of felt like There's some of that in there. I really like the guitar playing. Pictures of You is my favorite song because I love that guitar solo is awesome in
Yeah,
Pictures of You. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, I listened to it. I listened to it once so far, just this morning, and it was perfect. It was again another perfect morning album. Definitely gonna listen to it some more. I remember like kind of the other. I don't listen to Drug Dealer a lot, but I remember his other albums were like more jazzier. I felt like there was still some kind of jazzier influence. I could be wrong. I'm kind of speculating, but it felt more like straightforward and more like rock. And there were still some jazz influences in this, but um, yeah, but it felt like a little more precise and like the for whatever reason I remember like kind of like for the other albums just like kind of ready for it to be over and this one was nice and short, got to the point, um, but while being good at the same time. So I loved it.
I'm surprised you all say. I mean, I definitely hear the Steely Dan, but I think the first song on the album, like the moment I heard like kind of like the fuzzy drums and the organs, and especially when the vocals comes in, it was like 100% Van Morrison for me.
Oh, Van Morrison,
And
yeah,
I really
yeah.
like it was very nostalgic for me. It's like one of my mom's favorite bands, and I listened to that like so much growing up. And I liked his first album. I agree. I think it was a little bit meandering, but there were some really good jazz solos on the first album. What was it called? End of Comedy.
End of Comedy, yeah.
And I'm glad that he's like kind of finding his own voice, going with the yacht rock thing, but also not abandoning like his jazz roots. I think To Live and Drive in LA, excellent bass line, really, really, really good sax solo. But also, like, I think he brings his own sort of style, like laid back sort of groove to it as well. And I think laid back groove is probably the best way that I can sum up this album.
Mhm.
Posse Cut was awesome. I've never heard of these artists before, but I think they killed it.
Yeah, that's the highlight for the album, I think. That is
Absolutely.
so cool. And it has that like it almost sounds like Michael Jackson's on that song.
Mhm.
Like that voice is like
Yes, yes, I know
that high
exactly
pitch.
what you're.
It's like, damn, is
Yeah,
Michael up
the
here?
high notes.
Yeah, it's like, whoa.
And then Baby with Tim Presley. I looked up Tim Presley. I think he's an okay vocalist. I think that was his vocals on the whole track.
I think so.
Um, but I think what's the artist and what's Drug Dealer's name?
I think Michael Collins.
I think he's an excellent vocalist, and I think Baby was probably the weakest one on the whole track just because he wasn't singing.
Yeah, I feel like maybe he has it doesn't feel like I don't know if he even sings.
He doesn't?
I don't
I
know.
think
Maybe
he does. I thought he
Yeah,
does.
yeah, yeah.
no, he doesn't. Some songs he has another guy do a lot of his songs. But I think maybe in this one he does. I don't know.
Really?
A
Huh.
few different vocalists on this. I felt like I'm not quite as familiar with Drug Dealer, so I didn't know if that was like their thing or not. But
Yeah. Have you guys ever seen him live?
Mm-mm.
no, he was just in DC, and I was debating about going because I know you,
I
you guys.
saw him. I saw him a
Oh,
couple
we
years
saw the
ago.
Sleeping Village, like.
Yeah, you were there for that, the Sleeping Village show. I saw, but he came on so late, and I was so tired. But it was really good. It was a really good show.
I do remember him singing though, so I
Yeah,
know that he sings. I do remember him singing
he
that.
does. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So
Wait, hang on, pause. He hasn't played yet. He's playing on the 23rd.
Oh, there's still a chance.
this month.
Oh, I'm gonna be in
I'm
Chicago.
gonna be.
Oh, I might be there.
Yeah, Matt, you might.
I'm gonna be in DC that week. I might hit it up. All right.
Sorry. Well, if anybody's watching and is in DC and sees this before November 23rd, you actually go to the show.
Yeah.
Tell them Hip Dead Radio sent you.
Yeah. Good idea. Yeah. All right. Well, that's kind of all I have to say. I like some of the highs on this album are like super awesome for me. And like stuff that you don't hear like a ton. So it feels like, but some things kind of weigh it down sometimes. So it's kind of hard to give it. I feel it's like a 7.9. It's like almost an 8 for me, but I don't know. I haven't like had just enough time to really sit with it, so it's hard to really rate it. But because I like just found out this album came out like the other day, I was like, oh, I'm switching my vote to this after I heard it the first time, and I was like, so I don't know. We'll see how it changes over the years.